Welcome back to Tangle the Lemur Reads, Chapter 2 of The Walking Dead Hope. I'm Tangle the Lemur. Now let's continue where we left off. Clementine felt a chill rise through her spine at the mention of the word husband. She was still not accustomed to being married, though it was a pleasant sensation to say the least. She stood up, Addison following her lead, and set the teddy bear on the coffee table. The sun was slowly making its way to the horizon, a sweet orange blue bathing the sky. A sweet orange hue bathing the sky. The outline of the moon was visible already on the eastern side of the sky, awaiting the sun's departure. As they walked into the store, they were greeted by a smiling Louis, who was holding a box full of cans in his arms. Gaping at him, Clementine said, Where did you get all those? I found a hoarder's stash of food down the road, he informed them, gesturing to a rather run-down house at the end of the street with his head. Had to take care of the dude's corpse, but it was worth it. That's awesome, Lou, Asim exclaimed, taking a box from him. I'll take that. You could get those other supplies we gathered earlier. Wow, he's always such a gentleman, Louis muttered to Clem, who chuckled. They followed the man through the parking lot, Asim a few paces ahead of them. Louis lifted a wooden board for Asim, keeping it up for Clem. After you, my lady. Shut up, she said, rolling her eyes and trying to hide the smile that crept up her face as she crawled through the gap. As they walked, Clem noticed Asim getting farther and farther away from them, picking up his pace. The leaves rustled under his weight, and the crickets around them had begun their nightly song to accompany them. Sighing, she turned to her husband. Hey, Lou. Yeah? He said, offering her a half smile. She loved when he did that, almost as if he already knew what she was thinking and was bracing himself for what she would say. How do you feel about all this? She whispered, her hands instinctively going to her stomach. She thought by now she'd have a bump, but so far there wasn't much. After finding out about her pregnancy, she started reading every book available on the subject. As for Asim, they had put it, they were not taking any chances. Louis let out a tired breath, casting his eyes upward to the black void of the sky. The shining stars were like diamonds in the sky, untroubled by the struggles of a man. He searched that void, looking for answers that would not come. Looking down, he smiled. I'm happy. I didn't think you would, Clem noted. Actually glad that had been his reaction. I thought you'd freak out and run away or something. Oh, I'm fully freaking out, he assured her, nodding vigorously. I'm just a master of hiding my emotions. I see, she mused, chuckling. So you're really not running out on us? Clem, it pains me that you'd ever consider me doing that, he said, shooting her at a fleeting glance. I'll be there for you every step of the way. I'm glad, she whispered, stepping over a tree and brushing away Louis's helping hand at the same time. They fell silent for a while, enjoying the beautiful clear sky, crickets still surrounding them. The only sound other than that of the footsteps softly crunching the leaves that winter had so desolately blown away. They still had a ways to go until they reached the school. Clem realized ruefully she heard a sigh from her left and turned to Louis. What is it? Nothing. It's just... He trailed off his eyes somewhere far away she couldn't quite place. When she stared at them, his dark chocolate brown eyes felt like a pool she was being sucked into, its depths completely unknown to her. Sometimes she wondered how his mind worked. All those faithful memories from his childhood safely stored away in fear that they would be unleashed. Just what? Sometimes I wonder why you'd even be with me to begin with, he bluttered, his walls crumbling and his face scrunching up in a frown. Before she could retort, he cut her off. I know, you love me, and I love you too. But this whole new, different thing, how do we know I'm not going to be a horrible dad? How can you say that? Clem exclaimed, as Sim's words coming back to her in that moment, the truth in them becoming clearer to her. She stopped and grabbed Louis by the shoulder, halting him before he stepped over one of the ropes they'd set up as traps near the school. Ahead of them, Azam just kept walking. How do you know I won't become my dad? Excuse me? I've told you about my dad, he trailed off, frowning. The faint moonlight surrounded half of his face in darkness. How can I be so sure I won't turn into my dad? He was a crappy father, and I'll probably be an even crappier one. Closing his eyes, Clem reached out for him. Their fingers intertwining, she drew small circles all on the palm of his hand, shaking her head. Louis, she began, you're the most kind-hearted person I've ever met. I said so a month ago, and I'm saying it again. You've been a huge influence on AJ and me, and I cannot think of anyone more different than your dad. The freckled man looked up, a faint smile creeping up in his face. His brown eyes met her amber ones, and in them he found sincerity. He found understanding. You really think so? Chuckling, Clem stood on tiptoes and kissed the tip of his nose. Absolutely, doofus, she assured him. We'll work on this stuff together, like we always do. Together, he repeated, nodding and planting a kiss on the back of her hand. They heard Azam calling for them from up ahead, and they quickly caught up with him, standing by the gates of the school. From outside, the walls now looked much sturdier than when Clem had arrived there. A couple of years ago, while scavenging, they found a surprising amount of barbed wire in an abandoned warehouse, and it was now decorated from most of the perimeter of the school. 10, open the gate, Azam called. A loud thud was heard from the other side, and the barred gate slowly inched away from them. Once they were through, Louis and Azam helped 10 close it back up again, and Clementine set down the boxes they found on the table. She examined the food closely, making a mental inventory of their profit. I don't know about you, but I don't think peaches and beans are good for the baby, Louis said from behind her, a frown replacing his usual smile. We need to start stocking up on baby food and fast. I know, she sighed, looking back at him and lowering his head. This is already getting difficult, and we're not even close to the hardest part yet. And this is where I will stop for part 2. Stay tuned for part 3 of Tangle the Lemur reads Chapter 2 of The Walking Dead Hope.